Welcome to the Green Wave Coaches Show with Gallatin football head coach Michael Stroup and Gallatin News sports editor Blaine Kellar. The Green Wave Coaches Show is brought to you by Tennessee Ace Hardware. Football season is grilling season. Stop by Tennessee Ace Hardware today and check out our large selection of Big Green Egg grills. The Larry Maynard Agency. Give Allstate agent Larry Maynard a call today for all your insurance needs. Macon Bank and Trust. For over 100 years, Macon Bank and Trust has offered a true hometown banking experience to help you meet your financial goals. Dairy Berries Heat and Air. Dairy Berries has been voted Sumner County's best heat and air for the past 8 years. For outstanding service, give us a call today. And the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Remember, fans don't let fans drive drunk. Now, here are Coach Michael Stroup and Blaine Kellar.
Welcome back into another edition of the Green Wave Coaches Show. Sumner County Sports Editor Blaine Kellar, heading up papers in Gallatin, Hendersonville, and Portland. Joining you today, of course, with Gallatin football coach Michael Stroup. Coach Stroup, first off, before we dive into any football talk, post-game or pre-game looking into next week, happy late Labor Day.
Yeah, thanks.
What was the game plan for yesterday? We're recording here on Tuesday. What did you and the family or your football team get up to on a nice Monday?
We left out of here about 8:45, went to Mount Juliet for JV game and freshman game, and then came back here and practiced at 2:30 with the varsity.
Sounds like the work didn't end. Pretty laborious Labor Day then, huh?
Right.
Speaking of Mount Juliet, we're going to go into our post-game little talk here, talking about that 32-26 region game between Gallatin and Mount Juliet. So very exciting game to cover, exciting game I think for both teams to watch, and one half for Mount Juliet and another half for Gallatin. Coach, you could start off by just maybe 3 or 4 takeaways that you had from that game and what you kind of looked at from the film and from that game as a whole.
I think offensively, we started out slow and couldn't get into a rhythm, as I've stated before. And then, in the third quarter, we started getting some big plays out of the offensive line and Zakai and able to move the ball down the air a little bit in the air. Defensively, I thought we played well in the second half. But again, in the first half, we just, we allowed too many big plays. Got to do a better job of getting to the football and wrapping up defensively. I think we had a little in the third quarter there. We had a little. They caught us with too many men on the field, trying to kind of change units there at the end. So that was tough on us as well.
Yeah, that play in particular, where Mount Juliet, I think they kind of delayed bringing out their kickoff, their punt team there. Was that what kind of happened on that? I know that play ended up with a touchdown there for Mount Juliet. So, I mean, just what happened on that play and how big of a shifter was that for you?
Well, that's a big shifter. They ended up, we held them to punt, and then, they get a first down because we got too many men on the field, and then they ended up scoring on that series. So that's a big mistake on our part. But I take full credit for that. I should have called timeout, and which is what they want you to do, burn one. In high school football, the umpire, normally stands over the ball until it's ready to be blown into play, and maybe it was already blown into play. I don't know. And there's a lot of confusion. In college they give you time to sub and all that. In high school they haven't adopted those rules, so it's a little confusion. That's why a lot of kids want to wear their knee pads above their knees. In college they wear shorts, and they think they can do it in high school, but you can't. And so there's a lot of we've got to do a lot of correcting on Friday nights with our kids, and other coaches do too, because kids see things on Saturday and coaches see things on Saturday that just doesn't really correlate to the high school game. But yeah, we were on defense, and they were holding their punt team over on the sideline for about 15 till the play clock got about 15, and we made a substitution for the punt team when in reality we probably should have just went punt safe. But you learn from those things and you move on.
Kind of looking at that game as a whole, Juliet coach Trey Perry did a couple of things that that as a reporter, kind of were things you don't see very often in a game. I mean, I think in their first or second drive, they punt on third down. They're getting a couple of penalties there. Then they have the late substitution swap that gets a Gallatin penalty that leads to a touchdown in the second half. And then on the last drive of the game, they go for it on fourth down, trying to bleed out the clock and win it. Do those situations as a coach, I mean, as a reporter at very least, you don't expect those three plays to kind of happen in a season, much less in one game.
I mean, it's pretty normal. I mean, you quick kick on third down when you want to, get the ball and pin them back deep and they don't have a returner. And it's third and long, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20. And, you can quick kick it. And then, at the end there, he just didn't really want to give the ball back to us because he knew, I'm pretty sure he felt like we were kind of had the momentum there going offensively, so he didn't want to give the ball back, so he went for it on fourth down thinking that, he had a shot to get it, and he rightfully so, but that's I'm pretty sure that's what he was thinking in that mindset.
Well, when we go back to that too many men on the field penalty that led to a Mount Juliet score that set it at 29-7 but from that point on, Gallatin outscores Mount Juliet, I believe, 19-3 the rest of the way. And as we just mentioned, you guys had an opportunity to win it in the final minute there. As you talked about in your last couple of answers, the run game seemed to be what started working and what started making a difference in that comeback. Yeah,
we put together, and they were overplaying us receiver-wise, and I expected that. When you got some young receivers out there and with a young quarterback, try to get them frustrated. And, but that also loosened up the box a little bit and we were able to string together some big runs there in the second half. And, we had a couple in the first half. We just could not, we couldn't string it together to consistently get a drive going. So, yeah, I was proud of the offensive line and how they were able to create some lanes for running backs to hit.
Well, Coach, I did want to talk about maybe the balance there between Zakai and Brinkley's game overall. 257 yards, 2 touchdowns. Of course, he's our Gallatin News Player of the Week. But how much on the other side of it was the offensive lineman creating those gaps for him?
I think it was. It was both. I think he's kind of getting used to, actually being holes there versus, I think last year they, in the triple you run the midline and, you constantly got somebody hitting you in the face every time you get the ball. So he's got some lanes there, and he took advantage of them. And again, the offensive line did a great job of, downing and kicking.
I think this was something we talked about last week, Coach, with Brinkley. Just the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, Brinkley would run a lot of A-gap last year, just straight into that offensive line. And what you're asking him to do in this new system is to break loose, have those big chunk yardage. So I think he had a run of 70-plus yards in this Mount Juliet game. How much of a change or a difference is that for a running back going between running straight into the tackles and trying to break loose for something?
Well, I think that his positioning is the biggest difference. Last year he was in a 3-point stance, so you don't really get to look at the defense and see how they're aligned and how they're playing. Whereas in a 2-point stance, you're back there and you get to now you can make some cuts and some reads off the way defenders are playing. And I think that's the biggest difference, and he would agree with that, I imagine. No, it's just a little bit different philosophy. Now I'll sit here and say, we want to be smash mouth and get the ball downhill as quick as we can. Whereas option guys, they kind of, they want to ground it out and be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I just want to be a cloud of dust.
Well, some of those big runs that Brinkley was able to have last Friday night in that region opener did set up a few comeback plays that you guys were able to make and make that one interesting in the fourth quarter. We mentioned that huge 70-yard run that Zakai had that was followed by, I think, a drop pass to kind of a sweep pass to Jeremiah Williams there that got him in from 8 yards out. And then another big run or two. With 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, Marshall Hansen gets a reception pass from Jackson Stroup to make it a 6-point game. Talk about both of those scoring plays, Coach, and what you guys had designed there?
Well, I mean, it's just both of them are perimeter plays, and we had been busting them in inside, and again, you just get them going inside and you hit them on the outside. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I mean, it's just you just kind of keep them off balance as much as you can, and we were able to do that there in the end, and they were all set up by big runs by the offensive line and Zakan.
Did you notice that you were able maybe to get more horizontal as the game went on in that second half, or was that something that was successful in all 4 quarters?
I mean, I think that you I was kind of born and raised on the philosophy, if it's working, just keep doing it. And I had somebody ask me, well, you're so patient, you just kept running the football. Well, I mean, that's just, but when you're churning off 8 yards, and where we got in trouble was on second down. Especially in the first half, we just could not convert on second down and get in short yardage situations. So you find yourself in 2nd and 8 and 2nd and 9 a bunch. So we've got to do a little bit better job of making those little short yardage situations for us.
The comeback was really an exciting one there. I believe Mount Juliet, after that 3rd quarter touchdown, gets a field goal to start the 4th. Another stop by the Gallatin defense, and a really valiant effort that we're going to touch on in the second half of today's show. But on top of that, I mean, you guys get the couple of touchdowns, you get a stop here and there, and then with 5 minutes remaining, as I mentioned, it's a 6-point game. Mm-hmm. Mount Juliet starts to bleed the clock a little bit, starts to get a first down here and there. Then, as we said, 4th down, Mount Juliet goes for it. It looks like they're close. If they didn't get it, Tyler Travers, Mount Juliet quarterback, fumbles it, and Gallatin pounces on top of it. Mm-hmm. Most players might hang their heads after a play like that if Travers was close enough to get that first, but talk about your players hanging in there and forcing that fumble to give the offense a chance to win.
Well, I think it's just it's part of the growing process here and the development of this team, and in all 3 games, I maybe not so much Hendersonville, but I mean there's always a shot, right? We always give ourselves a shot to stay in it, and the type of things we're doing on offense, we can strike pretty quick. So you got the kids. I think they're starting to understand that, and as long as we can just kind of get the defense to get those early stops, play like they did in the second half, in the first half, and then we can get things cooking on offense.
Mount Juliet coach Trey Perry was really complimentary of not only you, but your son Jackson, and the way that this program is heading in its first year. After the win, it was kind of hard to get him to talk about his own team, honestly. He really wanted to talk about the growth of maybe Gallatin from this year as opposed to last year, which I find kind of funny because Gallatin won the game last year. But one thing that he did mention that I thought was interesting was this independent film study that the Bears kind of went under heading into this week. Senior safety Cason Walls mentioned that it allowed Mount Juliet maybe to anticipate or guess some of the plays that you guys were having in that first half a little bit. When you look back on it at film, did you see that from their players at all?
I don't know. A crystal ball? Like they knew what was coming? I don't. I mean, it's good to watch film, and we watch film independently ourselves. We've got a thing on Huddle where we can track how much film these kids are watching, and you go in there and you see you've got this kid watching 4 hours of film this week, and this kid's watching 3 hours of film, and so that's we look at that, and I looked at it last week, and we got a number of guys, but the more film you watch, the more you're gonna know. It's kind of like studying, right? If you don't study, you're not gonna know the answer. So it's the same thing in football. You just recognize and see some tendencies, and everybody's got them. But as far as maybe them knowing what we were doing, I don't know. Maybe they did.
Overall, they say you learn more from a loss than you do a win about your team. And you guys, Gallatin, now sitting at 1-2 on the season after losses to 2 really good teams in Hendersonville and Mount Juliet. Heading into this week's game against Dixon County, which we'll preview in a second, what have you learned about this Green Wave club?
They play hard. Still got to learn how to play for each other. But they play hard. Body language has got to improve, but they just got to understand that, you know, the work we put in Monday through Thursday is what wins games on Fridays, not just showing up on Fridays. And it's a learning process, you know, and these kids, every week we're growing. And as long as we can do that, you know, we just got to put it together for 4 quarters. And when you're, you know, when I'm coming into a program in the state it is, you know, you got to find little wins. And so, you know, I think we're playing hard. I think we're getting better at certain in certain spots every week. We just gotta, you know, put it together and string up some wins.
The Green Wave Coaches Show is brought to you by Main Street Media Television, our wonderful sponsors in Gallatin and the Gallatin News. I'm gonna take a quick break here, and when we come back, give you a non-region preview of this week's road game at Dickson County. Stay tuned.
As an Allstate agent in Gallatin, Larry Maynard knows many local families. His knowledge and understanding of the people in this community helps him provide customers with outstanding service. Give Larry a call at 615-452-1500.
Football season is grilling season. The Big Green Egg is the perfect grill for everyone. From the backyard cook to the world's most acclaimed chefs. Stop at Tennessee Ace Hardware today and check out our large selection of Big Green Egg grills. It's the perfect grill for any grilling need. Dairy Berry's Heat and Air has been proudly serving the Middle Tennessee area for over 35 years. We have been voted Sumner County's best heat and air company for the past 8 years. For outstanding service, call Dairy Berry's at 615-452-8121.
Macon Bank and Trust Company is a proud supporter of the Gallatin Green Wave. For over 100 years, Macon Bank and Trust has offered a true hometown banking experience to help you meet your financial goal. We are local people with local decision-making and ready to serve you.
It was just a few drinks. I'm good. I thought I was good.
After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal. It was no big deal.
Hey, I can hold my liquor. I thought I could hold my liquor.
Gallatin coach Michael Stroup mentioned little wins in his first year as head coach here with the Green Wave. It's the Green Wave Coaches Show as we talk about the little wins maybe that this defense had and how you can take that into this week's road game against Dickson County. Coach, let's start off with that when facing off against the Cougars.
You know, I think, you know, it's a good chance for us, and we're kind of, you know, we're going to mix some things up personnel-wise on defense, and you know, we just got to wrap up and tackle. You know, there's a game that, you know, there's times last week when we were playing Mount Juliet where, you know, I think the quarterback scored the first touchdown where, you know, he bounced off 2 or 3 guys and they're trying to shoulder tackle, and we're working on wrapping up and driving feet all week, and these guys, you know, you got the guys still wanting to shoulder tackle. So, you know, you try to coach it, and if you can't get it coached, then you got to try some other bodies in there to try to do what you ask them to do. So, you know, defensively, I think it's a good chance for us to get out there and try to improve on the mistakes we've made in the past.
Well, last week's game, of course, you allowed just 10 points in the second half. It's a season low against a Bears squad that is favored to win this region. But kind of talking about what you mentioned there with the personnel changes, without getting too much into game plans, and in case Jeff Tomlinson, Dickson County coaches listening in, don't want to spoil too much there, but what are you guys looking at specifically to change up for this week?
Well, you know, sometimes you just got to find a little energy here and there, and so, you know, whatever that may be, and you know, we just feel like, you know, maybe give some guys some chance that they're you know, practicing hard and going hard for us, and just kind of spruce it up a little bit.
With all due respect to Dickson County's offense, this defense has been pretty impressive. Dickson County's through the first 3 weeks, 33 points allowed overall. Quick math there, 11 points a game. When you kind of do your scouting report, Coach, is the defense the biggest strength of the Cougars?
You know, I think it is. I think they play very hard, and they play very tough. You know, we just gotta, you know, hope we get a first down this week.
One injury update I wanted to get a little bit on. LaDainian McMurray suffered what we believe to be a re-aggravated, I believe, a thigh contusion last week in the early goings of that Mount Juliet game. You almost have to believe that last drive that Gallatin gets to go on might have turned out differently if Ladanian was available. He's a huge asset on that offensive and defensive side. It's just, what's his recovery process look like this week, and do you know what his status might be for Friday's game?
He looks good. He's out there moving around yesterday, so he looks good.
Well, I know you guys had that kind of confidence going into that. You know, he suffered that injury at station camp, and then you guys had confidence that he'd be able to go against Mount Juliet, and then kind of got a dinger, I guess, a stinger, if you will, to start. Do you kind of rein him in a little bit whenever you have that injury that's kind of nagging? How do you kind of weigh that as a coaching staff?
I usually just go on what the kid says, you know, and how they feel. But we go through our trainer, and we work well with one another. So, we're not going to put a kid in a situation where dangers himself or prolongs the injury. But like I said, he was at practice yesterday, moving around. So.
That's all you can ask for.
That's all you can ask for.
When you mentioned it, Coach, you said through the first couple of weeks you need to find a game where you have all 4 quarters put together. I wanted to kind of get your take on these first 3 games. Which quarters do you feel like you want against Hendersonville? Which quarters do you feel like you want against Station Camp? I would believe the first quarter there. And then against Mount Juliet, I'd assume the second half. But overall, which quarters in particular do you think you've won through the first 3 games of the season?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know. I think that I just want to start fast on both sides of the ball, and in all phases of the game. I think that we sometimes it may take us a little bit to get going. I think the Hendersonville game was. I think we made some plays defensively and offensively in the first half of those games, and I think that deep second half was not so good for us. So. But again, it's getting these guys to believe and playing, 4 quarters and playing hard.
Based on your previous stops at USJ and Scotts Hill, is there any sort of recipe to unlocking that belief and getting these guys to play for each other for all 4 quarters, and especially at the start?
It's just hard work, and it's just, being unselfish and just getting out there and battling with each other. You just preach it and preach it and preach it. And, I told him last week, you start, when you start not complaining, but when you start like giving directives and stuff, the first thing you got to do is look in the mirror, and look at yourself and how you can be better.
When you mentioned that, how's the coaching staff taking that? Maybe taking those directives, looking in the mirror, and.
No, 100%. No, 100%. Our coaches are. I went up there. I went to Coach Clemens, our defensive coordinator, Friday night, and I just, I apologize. We couldn't get it done the first half, and he basically told me to shut my mouth, because, but he's got the same mindset as well. We just, we've got to get stops on defense, and don't let them score.
If there's one thing that you can kind of take away from this Green Wave coaches show through the first 3 weeks, it's a program, not a team. This team is building its way into that status week by week, and we're excited to see how that plays out this Friday at Dickson County. We'll have you covered with coverage from the Gallatin News and Dickson Post. But before that, we're going to take one more break, give you our one fun question, Coach Michael Stroup. Stay tuned.
Macon Bank and Trust Company is a proud supporter of the Gallatin Green Wave. For over 100 years, Macon Bank and Trust has offered a true hometown banking experience to help you meet your financial goal. We are local people with local decision-making and ready to serve you.
Derryberry's Heat and Air has been proudly serving the Middle Tennessee area for over 35 years. We have been voted Sumner County's best heat and air company for the past 8 years. For outstanding service, call Derryberry's at 615-452-8121. Football season is grilling season. The Big Green Egg is the perfect grill for everyone, from the backyard cook to the world's most acclaimed chefs. Stop at Tennessee Ace Hardware today and check out our large selection of Big Green Egg grills. It's the perfect grill for any grilling need.
As an Allstate agent in Gallatin, Larry Maynard knows many local families. His knowledge and understanding of the people in this community helps him provide customers with outstanding service. Give Larry a call at 615-452-1500.
Watch it! Did that guy even see that girl on her bike? Just like looking for other cars before switching lanes, drivers should keep their eyes out for those traveling on bikes. When a crash occurs between a vehicle and a bike, it's the cyclist who is most likely to be injured. Give cyclists room and do not pass too closely. Riders have the same rights and responsibilities as those behind the wheel.
Be aware, be alert. Brought to you by THSO, the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.
We're back for one fun question here on the Green Wave Coaches Show. Blaine Kellar joined by Coach Michael Stroup of Gallatin. Coach, I wanted to give you a couple superlatives here. Player by player, through your first couple of months of knowing these guys, which player best fits this description? Start best dressed on Gallatin's team.
Best dressed? Marshall.
Marshall Hanson.
Yeah, Marshall. He'd like to think so, but yeah, Marshall.
Preppy style?
Huh?
Got a preppy style? Or
He does. He
yeah?
does. He'll dress up, and his mom will put pictures out there on Facebook of him, and you know he really likes to go with the three-piece suit without a shirt underneath it. You know, so you know he likes to. He's worked hard to get change his body, so he's pretty proud of it.
Most athletic. Let's take it on the field.
Most athletic?
Athletic. Yep.
Oh man,
We got some athletes on this team too.
We do. I don't know if there's any one person. I think LaDamian is probably one of the more athletic guys on the team. Yeah.
Is there a class clown? Funniest?
Lord. Micah Bell. He makes me laugh. Makes me mad too, but he makes me laugh. So.
Does that ever happen at the same time, where you're trying to get mad at him, but he's just?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. We were getting ready to go to the JV game one day last week, and we just got off the practice field, and he lost his helmet. So, that was the moment where I was mad, and I just kind of laughed at him at the same time.
This one could be in the same vein. Most outgoing. Does Micah fit that category too, or is there someone else?
Nah, he's not outgoing. The most outgoing guy, I would probably say Zakian. I would probably go out and say, yeah, Zakian Brinkley.
It's funny though. The one interview I've had with Zakian, he was as shy as could be. What makes Zakian outgoing?
I mean, you just gotta get to know him. Once you get to know him, he can't shut up. So yeah, I would say Zakian.
And one more here, you could cop out with your son, but most like Michael Stroup.
Most like me?
Yep. Player most like you.
I mean, I don't know. I would probably have to go with Jackson, because we get in some verbal debates at times.
That worked out perfectly. That we beat the bell this time. That's a great buzzer to close off this week's Green Wave Coaches Show. Thank you to Mainstream Media Television. Thank you to the Gallatin News and our wonderful sponsors here in Gallatin for sponsoring this show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
You've been watching the Green Wave Coaches Show with Gallatin football head coach Michael Stroup and Gallatin News sports editor Blaine Kellar. The Green Wave Coaches Show is brought to you by Tennessee Ace Hardware, the Larry Maynard Agency, Macon Bank and Trust, Derryberry's Heat and Air, and the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.